Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm here with channel favourite Johnny H3232 in about 25 minutes. Oh, we're also here with Lucas Berghvall's face. Wowzers. That is an extreme close-up. We're also going to be joined by Dave. Irish Hotspur's coming back. He's on his way back from a camping trip, glamping with his dad, his old lad. And we are going to be bringing back the Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Advocate is back, people. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things that you love. And those you love to do them, please do me a favour like you always do. Smash the granny out of the like button for us. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already.
Granny, especially.
Smash the granny. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. It's rumour central. It's madness what's going on. We got football, finance stuff we're bringing in here. Johnny's going to be talking a little bit more about the Lewis Trust and Charington, the geezer that was brought in to shake things up a little bit. What exactly is his role? How much autonomy, how much power does he have? Who is he here to watch and oversee? And what's going on with the silence? Why is the silence? Is the silence because of these other things that are happening at boardroom level? Is it all just coincidental timing? And is everyone just on their hollypops? We're going to find out. Johnny, how are you, my man?
I'm all right, buddy. I'm all right. I don't know what's going on. I think my photos have taken over. Yeah, I mean, listen, look, loads and loads of stories. Some true, some not true, but we're in season. All the ITKs come out of the woodwork. Little Barry, age 7, just found his dad's computer. He puts his up. He's an ITK. He says something and he's got 7,000 followers. His dad comes back. What's going on? What's going on, son? What have you said?
What have you done? What have you done? That's my work account. That's my work account, son.
You said, bozo, I got all these messages, son. What is this? Yeah, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to throw out a rumour. And
I don't need much to throw out a clickbait video on the back of those rumours, mate. But look, it is what it is. We've got, there's things among us, mate. Let's start with the Qatar takeover stories. It's not around in the media, so to speak, this morning, but it is around in the people who know a thing or two about a thing or two, and that a lot of this Charington stuff is all related. Now, why don't you walk us through your take on all this stuff, mate?
I mean, look. This all started months ago, back in March, when I was on here and we spoke about all of this, and we were saying that Charington coming in, who's Joe Lewis's private banker. He operates out in the Bahamas, former head of Citibank, Citibank, when he was there, was the Bank of the Year for 2 years on the trot. He won an award as the, I think it was Private Equity Banker of the Year, or what have you. So he was coming in, and I said to you at the time, I thought this was significant. Why was it significant? Because, with all the rumours going around about takeovers and offers, I believe he came in to add credibility to the board for inward investment, and also to keep an eye on some of these deals that were going through. Then we had the situation of Vinay coming in. Now, Vinay had 20 years at Arsenal. When he left Arsenal, he got offered countless amount of jobs in private equity, both in America and in Saudi Arabia. He got offered a job at Newcastle, but he chose to come to Spurs. Now, bearing in mind, he's come from our arch rivals after 20 years. It would need a big position for him to do that. And I said at the time, if you can combine the credibility of both these two, coupled with the fact that 18 months ago, Daniel Levy appointed Rothschilds as their private banker to look for potential buyers, stroke investors for the club. So it wasn't a shock to me that come the summer, we were going to have some major changes going on at the club. It seems to have triggered everyone going into meltdown. There's nothing really has changed. Look, we have been for sale, or a proportion of the club has been for sale for a long time. We've been linked with QSI. We've been linked with so many different individuals. Even Bowley tried to have a go at buying Spurs, but he wanted to take over and Daniel wanted to remain as CEO, so that was never going to work. I do think, though, now this is completely different now because, as I've mentioned before, so if you've heard this before, I repeat, apologies for repeating myself, but Spurs have some huge capital-intensive projects that need to be done, namely the hotel, which we've seen that's been started, and the also the extension to the medical facilities down at Hotspur Way, and then the Whitewebs development, which there's many rumours on that, which it varies from the women's football team to stadium for them, and also facilities for them, and potential, for an NFL training centre for them to attract views. But the Joe Lewis situation is interesting because in 2022, 2023, when he had his court case, Joe Lewis, he transferred the shares or on his behalf. He appointed the Bahamas-based lawyers Brian Antoine Glinton. I had to check there because I couldn't remember the name. And Kate Louise Booth to oversee his family trust and manage his interests, particularly concerning Tottenham Hotspur. This change occurred after Lewis stepped back from his role as a person of significant interest. Glinton and Booth, both being designated as replacements. Glinton is a lawyer who has previously, run the Tavistock Group in Albany, who are Tavistock Group and Albany. Tavistock Group own ENIC. Okay, so Tavistock Group, there's around about 200 companies within the Tavistock Group, of which ENIC is just one. I think the fact that Charington, who's also Bahamas based, has been brought in literally, as I said, to make sure that when someone comes in, they're financially secure and they're the right people. Also, if you're coming in and you're investing potentially hundreds of millions of pounds, no disrespect to Donna Cullen or Caldecott, but you want people with fantastic financial background coupled with the project which Spurs is. It can be a financial behemoth. If you can keep this club in the Premier League, in the Premier League, good one, that one. I meant the Champions League. If you can keep them in the Champions League with the finances available there for that, plus coupled with the 30 non-football events and the other events that are going on weekly inside the club, hurrying out for functions and stuff, coupled with the fact that sponsors, sponsor bonuses for qualifying for the Champions League, the money coming in could be vast and can be grown. And I think that we should be viewing this, what's going on at the moment, as a step in the right direction. I know a lot of people are, upset with this Ange situation, but I think we got to take a longer look here at the, what is actually happening. These two coming on board, Vinay's reputation for fan engagement, and what he did with the women's football team. I know a lot of people on here might not be interested in the women's football team, but it's another part of the growth story. I think the club could be in really good hands, and I think, whilst it might not be a complete takeover, I do believe that money is 100% needed to come and take the club forward and do these projects. And I see a lot of people going on and saying, yeah, but all it is investing in bricks and mortar. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I don't believe that anyone's going to come in and bring in £500 million or whatever it is for a 10% stake, or 300 million, and turn around and say, well, just give it all to bricks and mortar. They will want to be able to guarantee that a certain amount of that money is invested in the squad, because that's ultimately, they want to grow the brand, they want to grow the team and make it successful. And as we've said on this show, and Sean said on this show, between the two of us over the last few months, Spurs now have massive FFP and PSR headroom, roughly around about 220, 250 million as it stands now, which is going to increase with the money that's coming in from these things that I mentioned before. We could go out, should they come in this transfer window with the money, and we could go out and seriously spend the money.
Apparently, Johnny, there's rumours out again. This is what I'm saying. Mad rumours everywhere. I don't know where someone got this, but it was retweeted like 1,000 times, or like 1,000 times, that apparently that we've got £300 million earmarked for transfers. Now, I think that is maybe coming from an article that's referencing the amount of money that has already been earmarked to be owed on previous transfers, right? Rather than new money coming in. But like, to me, I just feel like there is money to spend. As you know, you've been talking about Charington for months. Going back to December of last year when they issued the shares at £30 million. You all right?
Yeah, no, so fine. I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Look at this cup.
His lordship, very nice.
His lordship, but it's not mine. My son's not going to be happy. That's his cup.
I just feel like there's 100% there's money available, but when it comes to like any new investment, if it is coming in the short term, it doesn't really matter what it's earmarked for, because if there's money that's currently earmarked for the projects, then that money coming in doesn't need to go in that direction. If that money is earmarked for the project, then the money that's already in the subsidiary accounts can be moved back across. Just having more access to capital, having more access to liquidity, then you can start to engage in the dark arts of bowleyship, right? Which is what he's become so good at, selling your left arm to your right arm and loaning it back, all those sorts of things. Women's team, redirections, hotel changes of owners, all those sorts of things can be, mannerisms and mechanisms to be able to spend what you want on the balance sheet and to go after the sorts of things that Todd Boehly has done. Now, they obviously were the beneficiary of a very unique set of circumstances, and nobody else has really pushed the needle in that regard the way that Chelsea have. Newcastle might start to do it. Aston Villa are using other mechanisms. Their relationship with Saudi, obviously Nottingham Forest as well have got a relationship. They were one of the teams that voted against in the most recent tightening of the rules. So I just wonder whether, as we spoke about this on Football Inc. earlier, by the way, smash the subscribe. The link is pinned in the comment.
At Football Link Inc.
It's kind of the writing on the wall with regards potential future new ability to change the rules, because of the fact that for rules to be approved, for rules to change with Premier League, that you have to get 14 votes, which means if 6 vote against and 1 abstains, and Chelsea always abstain, they're like Russia or China in the United Nations thing, then nothing really changes. And so I just wonder whether or not that there is this chance, if Trip Smith gets hold of the rest of the West Ham shares, and with his relationship with Chelsea being what it is, and his incredibly deep pockets, and the fact that he has a relationship with Blackstone Capital, of which the owner is David Blitzer, I just wonder whether or not, as I said on the last show, mate, for people that didn't watch it there, they might be hearing this for the first time, but I just feel like that there might be this perfect storm of Vinny coming in, Paratici coming back, Daniel Levy having finally lifted the trophy, him getting a little bit pissed off with the noise against him, the fact that he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't with regards to Ange Postecoglou, the fact that we may be having this new investor coming in, the fact that Charington's here, the fact that Donna Cullen has stepped down, and the fact that externally to Tottenham, there could be takeover rumours with regards to West Ham that may then put in place this course of action that may result in future tightening of the laws and the rules, essentially a done deal. And if that happens, then Daniel Levy, as the poster boy for FFP, Johnny, where does he go? Whereas if he steps back out of the way and another guy comes in with a fresh approach to Tottenham, then maybe it's a case of it's now the time to say, if you can't beat them, join them. We're having a lot of flip-flops in the YouTube community right now. Maybe there's a bit of flip-floppering going on in the ownership.
Gary Becks, sorry, I couldn't answer you there. Gary Becks in the comments there. Yes, I do believe that Charington has been brought in to stop the fall off of bids that we've received previously, where we've had bids come in, and for whatever reason they haven't managed to get across the line. And I think that could easily be a case that Charington's been there to oversee it, to make sure, well, why is this deal not going through? That is a reasonable deal. That is a good deal, and bearing in mind that he's looking after Lewis's interest of 76 odd percent or 70 odd percent, then I think that's a very good call. As far as Spurs are concerned, Sean, I just think that we are unique. There is no other club in the Premier League right now that has 30 non-football events generating this kind of money. That's just the non-football events inside the stadium. That's not even including the Skywalk, the F1. And if you ever go down there, there's events going on in all the big spaces that they have there. If you've ever been up to the east or the west premium sections, there's big areas there for activities. There's commercial clients, corporate events going on there all the time. It's a financial behemoth, right? I don't think they really need to resort to that once they have the money on board. Don't forget the hotel, but they could, Sean, as you rightly say, once that hotel is built, then sell it to themselves to get round that area. I think the one thing that's
how long is it going to take to build a hotel? Quickly, sorry.
Well, I thought, and I might be wrong, someone can correct me, I thought that one of the criteria of us getting the European site for 2028 is that we provide a a hotel of a certain standard.
To all the UEFA sponsors.
Right.
Is it really?
Well, so basically, I'm just saying. Yeah, but bear in mind, work it out, Sean.
I'm with you. Yeah,
right. Every match day, think about how many people come in from America, from Korea, right? And they come in and they stay at the Tottenham Hotel and they stay at the Ledley King Suite, which is like only got one leg on the bed, or themed rooms, the Sol Campbell room, which
is that part of the condition? Is that what you're saying? That's the condition? Is it?
I thought it was part of the condition of them getting the event was to have a hotel.
Wow.
Nowhere. Where's the nearest hotel to Tottenham?
I think there's a travel lodge up the road, right up by Seven Sisters.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to work. So someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that was part and parcel of.
There you go. It is a condition, says Nilla.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
I know that the naming rights thing is something to do with it, isn't it? Like
you can remove that. Listen, by default, Tottenham have found out that not having a naming rights deal has turned out to be a fantastic blessing in disguise, because now the brand is growing exponentially across America and all around the world. Instead of being known as the Tampax Arena or the Domestos Dome or whatever,
the Blue Bowl,
Bonnie Blue Bowl, it's known as the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And when people are new to football, telling us about hotels, he's got enough. Oh yeah, okay. The growth of having the name on the
so you could call it the Premier Inn Stadium, because some of the football we've seen this season sends you to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, when people play Madden, for example, and they want to play American football, instead of doing all the grounds they normally do, they like to do the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Right? I've spoken to fans, especially who play it in North America, and I said, I asked them, how did you come to support Spurs? Well, I wasn't really involved in it, but then I followed them. I saw them on the game, and that's how I decided to support Spurs. So
yeah.
In disguise, and long may it continue.
It's just difficult to quantify that value, because I used to give this example, like when I used to go and pitch advertising to dentists in America when I was out there, for example, big dental chains. They would say, how you're asking me to spend whatever, like $50,000 a month or whatever on advertising. How do I know what the value is when if a patient comes in, they get their teeth cleaned on their first appointment? I'm like, yeah, but you're not getting like the lifetime value of a customer is how you qualify it or how you quantify it, right? Like, how much is that family worth? If you get the dad, you get the mum, you get the two kids, and you get them not just for the first clean, but you get them forever if they stay in the area. So that's like with the same with a fan of a football club. Like, how do you quantify? You can quantify the alternative. Like, you can quantify £25 million a year if it's going to Toyota or whatever, or Google. But, how do you quantify what that, sort of intangible value of having, like you say, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium written all over the NFL game, or the EA Sports FIFA 2026 or whatever?
The concerts, when they, for example, some of these concerts will turn into a video, right?
Yeah.
That will be broadcast around the world, the boxing, that boxing, the fight, the Eubank.
Oh, that must have done wonders. That must have done absolutely wonders.
Drawing people in, if it was the Saudis, for example, the Saudis were to come in and it wasn't Qataris, who's to say that, the Sheikh wouldn't think about having some fights at Tottenham, huge fights, huge cards.
Isn't that guy Cherky looking at Millwall? Imagine when you hear this, Cherky looking for London investment, and you go, is it Tottenham? Is it Tottenham? No, it's Millwall.
Millwall or Southampton. Someone suggested Sheffield Wednesday, and he said, no, I need to stay down south. He obviously hasn't been to Millwall. No offence, Millwall fans.
Sorry, just quickly, what's this? There's an ABC documentary on Ange, and Sean and Henry was in it.
Well, it's about 23 seconds. I actually sent that to you earlier on Bozo's Go to Bodo. Right?
Oh, really?
On our Bozo's group. And Henry goes, I'm in that. I said, no shit, Sherlock. That's why I sent it to you.
Oh, I haven't looked at it. I haven't seen it. Oh, yeah, I might ding them with a copyright strike. How dare they use me without asking my permission? There you go. Have some of that, Aussies. Have some of that. I have to check that out.
I think Harry Hotspur was in it.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah,
fair enough. 800 people here, guys. Please smash the like button. Please smash the subscribe. Love to see it. El Dante, member for 13 months. Thank you for your long-going support, mate. Thanks for all being a great. Thanks to all for being a great community. Appreciate you, mate. Appreciate you. Thank you to you. Thank you to everyone that's here. Appreciate your ongoing loyalty. As to you, Lee Harvey, member for 16 months as well. Afternoon, Sean, Johnny. Where did you get the away kit, Johnny? A place called D, a place called Gate with an H somewhere else in it, right?
Somewhere like that, yeah.
Somewhere like that.
I've had it for a couple of months now. It's very nice.
Have you washed it?
Of course I've washed it.
So it came up. No, I wasn't saying it like that. I mean, like, has it come up okay in the wash is what I meant.
No, I bought 4XL because I bought 4XL and now it's XL. No, it's fine. It's fine. I've washed it. I use a bit of deodorant now and again. No, it's a beautiful kit. In fact, I know some people have said they hate it, but for me, I would say, hang on a second, I would say that it's let's come out of there a bit. I would say it's probably, for me, the nicest kit Spurs have produced in a long time.
I'm definitely going to get that one instead of the white one. Not because I particularly love or don't like the home kits. It's just because, I always wear black because I'm a big lad and, curves are going to curve, I guess.
I like it. The only thing I don't have, obviously, because I got it 2 months ago, before Spurs even knew that they were going to have a black kit. Obviously, there's no side bits, for the Kraken. And
also the for the Champions League badge on the Europa League winners on the shirt for the Champions League. You love to see it. Yeah. Love to see it. We've also got a new member, Caleb McCoy. Thank you very much, mate. Caleb McCoy. Thank you very much, mate. You're very crispy. Appreciate you, bud. Appreciate you, mate. I wanted to ask you because there's some stories out. I put a poll up minute ago. I did, yeah. More Eastern Europeans
do favour this particular part of the European bloc.
We do. We're very pro Poland. I wanted. Let me just share this tab for you because I've got some quotes out regarding Pedro Porro, and it will lead me to a question for us here. I'm going to have to get rid of the overlay for a split second. Ratatata. What am I doing there? Here we go. Get rid of that, and then we're going to come to this, and then we're going to come to this in the bookmarks. So there's a lot of quotes here, but I'm going to start with Pedro Porro. He says, Pedro Porro says, Spurs should continue with Ange Postecoglou. Him continuing would be good for the dressing room. He has built a very good group, and coaches also need time in the league. Things didn't go well, but he makes you win a trophy. That's important too. on being selected to do a drugs test after the Europa League final. It was hard for me. You just won something huge. You have all of your family there, all your teammates, of all the people, and this is about lads. It's Tottenham. It was you.
Hang on, just go back a bit, right? So I was actually stood by him where someone came over, and I thought when he was approached by someone and he looked really agitated, I thought it was because he couldn't find his kid or couldn't find one of his family members.
Right.
And until you say that now, I couldn't quite work out what the problem was. It's obviously that was what it was. It was.
How long does the drugs test take to go through, do you think?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you in 2011, when I was on the plane to Real Madrid with the players for the Real Madrid quarter-final Champions League, I came back and they had selected Peter Crouch, who got sent off in that game, to do a drugs test, and he couldn't produce a urine sample. I don't know when they asked him.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know when they asked him because he was sent off early. And we were sat on the tarmac and we couldn't take off. And of course, when he did come back on the plane, having kept us delayed, he got a load of abuse. And that was the end of the fans traveling with players.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the last, of the trips. It can take a while. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I think you just drink a 2-litre bottle of water. It's going to go through you pretty quickly. Nature shouldn't be that difficult. Not to miss a plane, not to delay a plane. That's wild. I can piss on cue. Not a problem. It was used. The coach said, yes, we're Tottenham. We have to believe we're a big team. Now people have to respect Tottenham a little bit because we're the European champions. The season had been really bad in the Premier League, and winning a European title brought such happiness. The fans had suffered. We suffered too, but it's not how it starts, it's how it ends. He also said on Wenger saying the European League winner shouldn't qualify. That rule's been in place for years. It's not news. And Pedro Porro on Tim Sherwood. What did Tim Sherwood say? He says, you can ask him from me what he thinks now. What did Tim Sherwood say that he thinks? Do you know that? I'm not sure what anyone can in the chat let us know.
I think what Ange did was it's us against the world. I think that's what he did. I mean, I don't know.
Saying here, I'm not going to lie. It did impact me to see people say they were going to sack him. To be honest, I'm very close to him. He's been an important coach for me, and it's thanks to him that I have brought out my best football these 2 years. It's complicated because in football, in general, things don't always depend on you. But honestly, in the team, I think, in my opinion, we're happy with him. So on that basis, Johnny, and there's other quotes I'm going to bring up from Micky van der Ven and stuff as well a little bit later on. But on that basis, I asked the poll at the start of the show, should the players' opinions on Ange be a factor in the decision to keep him or sack him? Now, before I give you the answer, before I give you the poll size or the poll number, there's 500 votes, by the way, guys. So smash that, smash your like or your yes or no on that one. Johnny, what's your answer? Do you think that the players, they're going to be emotional, they're going to have sentiment towards him? Obviously, they're going to, have a great relationship with the guy that's brought him a trophy. But should that be a factor, or should the players just be professional and say, these managers always change, so we've got to do a job?
Listen, I find the whole thing very aggravating because, listen, we all loved that night in Bilbao. Yeah, amazing. But come on, what about the 22 league defeats? Where was that? We're behind Ange all the way. When we were getting humped and we were terrible. And, where was the dedication when they came out of that dressing room? Looked like they just had a sedative, half asleep, getting beaten at home by Ipswich after we'd rested half of the team, for the midweek Europa League game, getting beaten at home by Leicester, taking 1 point from Leicester in 2 games. Come on, Sean, right? I understand the euphoria of them winning a trophy, but, where was the inspiration from Ange? Why wasn't whatever Ange was doing working in the other 22 games? And we gave up the ghost in January. Did you? Did you tell the players not to bother in January and not bother? I don't know. I mean, it seemed very much like half the team wasn't trying from sort of February onwards. I mean, look at the 2 games in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup against Aston Villa. It was like we never turned up. It was like where was the fight then? When was that cup spirit, Sean?
Yeah.
Where was that?
I hear you. Obviously,
One game in a final against the worst Manchester United team, in probably 60, 70 years, 115 passes, one pass every 54 seconds, right? With only a 61% pass completion rate, 27% possession, and one shot on goal. It's hardly, let's not get carried away too much with what an incredible performance it was. We did what we had to do. It was a dogged performance defensively, but that's all it was.
I hear you, mate. You know how I feel about the manager, but I also maintain that you have to justify. Big up, Dave. Good to see you, mate. I hope you've had a good trip. You okay, buddy?
Yeah, it was good, lad. It was good to get away. Although as soon as I'm back, straight back in the fire pit. I honestly thought a couple of weeks after Europa League, it all calmed down a little bit. Nope, it's back to being Tottenham.
It is, mate. It is. Nothing ever stops in the mad world that is Tottenham Hotspur.
Good,
Johnny,
Dave.
Sorry, go on, Johnny.
Good, I was just going to say, you're good, Dave. He actually isn't. He's actually still in his tent. He just.
No. Dave, you look like you've lost a bit of weight, mate. Have you lost some weight on your trip?
Yeah, I've been in the gym doing 5Ks, every couple of days and stuff like that. And, I've been looking after the way I'm eating. I still like my can of Cokes and stuff like that. But, I'm not eating as much takeaways or junk food and shit like that. You know what I mean? I'm eating salads and that now. So, yeah, I'm losing a bit. Still got more work to do, though, lad.
Good man. Well, keep it up. Keep it going.
Now we're going to know you.
Dave, we're just talking about the sentiments of the players, right? So I don't know if you caught anything before you pressed the live button, but Pedro Porro has come out and essentially given his take on Ange and saying, yeah, I'm very close to him. It made me upset when he was getting all these Ange out rumours, all this stuff. And I put a poll out accordingly and asked the guys in the chat there, what is, how much of the player sentiment towards the manager, or how big of a factor, if any, should it be when Daniel Levy and the various decision makers are figuring out what they want to do? I mean, the fact they haven't figured it out yet, or the fact they haven't articulated yet, to me is bonkers. Maybe there's other things going on in the background at Tottenham, why that is. But in terms of, if Daniel Levy's going to take any influence from the players, then, it looks like most of the players have come out and said that they're very much with Ange. And Johnny's saying, that's great, but at the end of the day, they weren't really with him in terms of results in the Premier League. So, what's your take on it, mate?
Look, I think, you look at what happened to Nuno at Tottenham. Players had a massive influence of getting him out the door. The likes of your Ben Davies and people like that going up saying the way he's handling the squad and everything else, it's not good enough. They got him sacked. They weren't having Conte when they had that heated discussion. He ended up walking away. Jose Mourinho. The players not having managed before have influenced the decision of a manager. So I think the fact that, we've got players that are there for the manager, I think should influence the decision to a certain degree. Squad happiness is absolutely huge in football. If your squad ain't happy, you don't win things. And at the end of the day, the fact that they are having them is what delivered the Europa League trophy. And that's it at the end of the day. It's something that I've had the greatest time of my life the last few weeks, being able to go away and celebrate. So I think it's it should play a huge factor. It shouldn't be the deciding factor, but it should play a huge factor in the club's decision, in my opinion, on that. How many years for the last, since Pochettino, have we been sitting here where players just aren't having managers and continuously sort of getting them out the door? You can't keep going like that. And I think at the point where a squad is happy with the managers, I think it should play a deciding factor. It should play a factor in their decision for sure. Also, what was Johnny saying? Yeah, so Johnny was saying, it shouldn't really play a factor and stuff like that. I disagree. They've sacked managers on the premise that the squad weren't happy before, hang on, this and that and everything else.
Hang on, I wasn't saying, sorry, just to clarify, Dave, right? I wasn't saying it shouldn't have any effect. Obviously, it does have an effect. I'm not saying that at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I wonder, the effect I'm saying is why didn't it have an effect on them when they were playing the league game? How would it have been if we'd lost that final? What would have been the narrative then? Let's be honest, it was a backs to the wall performance and a sort of some sort of freakish goal. But how would that have been? He threw.
Well, I think we have to wash hands with it. I see a lot of people going, "Oh, people are flip flopping." You're only feeling like that because we won the final. You're emotional. At the end of the day, that Europa League final was always going to a degree decide his fate, whether it was going to be on your side of the argument or someone else's side of the argument. And I think the people who were on the wrong side, whatever way it fell and they were on the wrong side, have to wash hands with that, in my opinion.
You should all be happy. Look, whether you're Ange in or Ange out or whatever your narrative, right? no one will take away from the fact that that night in Bilbao was, well, the greatest European night in 41 years for Spurs fans, and for many fans, 17 and under, the first time they've ever seen the club win anything, and that emotion, I totally and utterly get it. But all I'm saying is, I thought any decision to get rid of Ange, to give Ange an extra contract, and all the rest of it should not have been done. This rush to make the decision, I thought was foolhardy. I think you have to wait for the dust to settle and analyse it all before deciding.
No, look. Do you think though? Is there any like merit to this then? Like, obviously, all the 22 losses came before the final. The sentiment towards Ange is now being asked post the final, and this is one of the unknowns that I've been talking about on this channel. That even when I was Ange, I've been on the fence. I'm jumping over the fence every couple of days at the moment, trying to get all the angles like a protractor. But I just feel like there still is an argument to say, like, those sentiments may not have been there, right, before the final. Now they are. Maybe that's something maybe you shouldn't take seriously, because it's like, you've fallen in love on it for a one-night date kind of thing, a one-night stand. You shouldn't do that. But at the same time, there is that unknown of what does a European League winners medal hanging around the necks of 17, 18, 19 and 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds, what sort of indelible mark does that have on the confidence of not only an individual, but a team? And so that unknown, we can speculate as to what impact it's going to have. But to me, as I said to you on the other show, Johnny, like, part of me feels like this is an unfinished story. I'm not Ange out unconditionally anyway. I'm Ange in, unless we can get someone better. With Inzaghi chalking himself off and going off to Inter, I'm like, well, I won't go through the names, but in a nutshell, there's part of me that's like, I feel like it's watching a series on Netflix. You've got to season 1 and season 2, and you know that the story isn't finished because it's finished on a cliffhanger. But unfortunately, season 3 isn't available on Netflix. To get hold of that, you have to subscribe to Hulu, and it's only available in Canada or something like that. And I just feel like that, to me, I want to know whether Ange is a fraud or whether Ange is legit and the real deal. And I don't know right now. And I feel like if he gets sacked, part of me is going to feel like it's an unfinished story. And that's a little bit like unsatisfying. I need to know whether he is the real deal or not. And I think we can know that within 10, 15 games of next season.
The thing is, look, I take into account the defeats, right? It was the toughest season of my life, probably the most boring season in terms of watching Tottenham Hotspur. But at the end of the day, it culminated in the greatest time of my lifetime. And I understand, that if there was a name of a certain caliber presented to me, fine. I would look at that and I'd probably say, you know what, I might make the twist, because going into the Champions League and Postecoglou still leaves it open. Can he compete on multiple fronts? He hasn't demonstrated that across 2 seasons. I fully understand that. But, I do think at times fans have shifted the goalpost on him a little. We're sitting here talking about league defeats. I was one of them. How many people wanted to drop points to Man City last year? Right? How many people last year when he went out of the Carabao Cup in the first round last year against Fulham, when he made changes, sat there and said he should be prioritising cup competitions, play your strongest team in the cups. Now he's done that this season. Now all of a sudden, people are reverting back and talking about the league campaign. But for years, and Alex Box Office is one of them, by the way, said no problem. I have no problem accepting 17 to whatever in the league. Don't care where we finish. I want to get a trophy. Now we've delivered a trophy. Now all of a sudden the goalposts are shift again, and I don't think it's fair to a certain degree. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of what's going on around here around Tottenham. And should we keep on? Should we not? Is the shift in the goalpost?
Balance. Do you think? You see, I hear what you're saying, Dave, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I do think there's a balance. For that game against Fulham, he didn't need to make 9 changes. Okay, he could have made less and got us through. And this thing where he says, you can't have both. You can't challenge in the league. So if we can't challenge in the league and have a good league season and go for a cup like the Europa League, how is it going to be when we're in the Champions League, where you can't rest anybody? The one thing in Ange's favour, and we said this to Sean, and I were talking about it on Football Inc. before, whatever happens now, if Ange walked out that door right now, he walks out with his head held high, and whatever job he goes into, they can't sack him until the end of the second season, because he said, I always win something in my second season. He can have this. He could go to Fulham and have the crappiest first season and say, yeah, but like I said, I always win something in my second season. Who's going to argue with him? Because he always has.
And he was mocked for that, by the way. For months, he was ridiculed for that. People are only saying fair play now.
I'm just saying now, he's got that now for the rest of his career. You know, however many years he's got left in football, whatever club he's going to go to, he can spin that line. And then anyone who doubts him, they're going to quote, well, he won in his second year in Australia, in Japan, and at Tottenham. So he's going to have that for the rest of his life. That's why I think, you know, for him, it's a drop the mic moment, because I don't think, with the greatest will in the world, I'm willing to take the risk of going into a second season and then finding out he's not the man. We've spent the money, and then we're in real trouble as to trying to find a coach that's available. Listen, I hope if he does stay, he's successful, Dave. Really, I really do. Right? Whoever it is, whether I like him or not, I just want the club to win and to be successful. But when you've already told us you can't have success in the league and attempt to go for the Champions League, I fear for next season. Where does that leave us?
No, look, 100%. But, you know, everyone's going 22 defeats and putting it all on Ange Postecoglou. But how much of that is down to when we rotate the squad, like we've seen in previous years under previous managers in different squads, that the squad depth that we have at the club just isn't there, or the quality isn't there? You know, name me the last manager since Pochettino that, with the squads that they've had available, has been able to compete on multiple fronts every season. None of them.
He's had 4 windows. Listen, he's had 4 transfer windows.
And 3 of them conducted by Johan Lang, who's shit.
But 4 transfer windows and 350 million. I mean, last season, right? Well, the best thing that's ever happened to him is the fact that we lost 5 of our last 7 games last season, only beating Sheffield United and Burnley, who were relegated. Those were only 2 wins in the last 7 games. But it was that.
We're not known for our outstanding recruitment, though. Like, we can sit here and say, we spent this much and we've had that many transfers. We're not known for our great recruitment. And Steve Hitchen,
I understand that, but we should still not be losing 5 of our last 7 games in the title. But what I'm saying is, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. That drop from 4th position, which we had in the bag, to 5th position by 1 point. Because had we qualified for the Champions League and by coefficient, the 5th place team had gone into the Champions League, this club, this team would never have won the Champions League trophy. And not only that, we would have had the 22 defeat coupled with a swift exit for the Champions League. So the stars have all aligned for Ange. And, you know, fair dues. I'm glad in hindsight now that we had that terrible drop-off at the end of the season, qualified for the Europa League, and ultimately won it.
Johnny, is there a level, like, you're obviously Ange out. Like, I'm Ange out, providing we can get better. Huh?
What gave you that impression?
No, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm trying to read between the lines here, Johnny. I just feel like, for me, with Inzaghi scratching himself off the list, with Oliver Glasner essentially ruling himself out, if it's Thomas Frank or no one, are you fully on board Thomas Frank? Do you? Because, like I say, the other variable that you have to factor into this, the risk of disruption, is the fact that a lot of these players seem to want to stay. And Dave's saying it is a big deal, and especially as previously managers or players have kind of, not just at Tottenham, in loads of clubs, there's loads and loads and loads of examples of players putting their feet up because they're not happy with the manager. But if they are happy with this one, and I agree with you, if you're so happy, then where was the effort on the pitch in the 22 games? I hear you. I just land on this zone where, like, I don't know whether I'm changing my mind a little bit. The more I think about it, the fewer, like, the less and less names that are top quality. I'm on board Ange going if you can bring in a monster. But I don't know where the monster is right now. And I don't think Thomas Frank, what is it you called him, mate? Thomas the Frank engine, Dave?
Oh, it's embarrassing, man. Honestly. Like, do you know what it is, right? People sit here and go,
can't call him an embarrassing manager. Sorry, Dave.
I'm saying, I'm not calling him embarrassing. I'm saying any fan that sits there and perpetrates Ange has lost 34 games over 2 seasons at Tottenham Hotspur and then puts Thomas Frank forward and hasn't done their research. He's lost 33 games over 2 seasons, in the Premier League. So we're now saying 34 games is acceptable, but 33 games is acceptable. It's laughable, and that's embarrassing.
Well, it's not light for light, Dave. Come on. I mean, if you take Mbeumo and Visser and Sade out of that team, I mean, there isn't much there, is there? Come on.
You take every single one of them at Tottenham and they'd probably walk straight into our front line, wouldn't you?
What?
Oh, we had this conversation last night, Johnny. I think Flecken's a very good player for their squad. I know Rico Henry's been injured, but Rico Henry's quality.
Rico Henry hasn't played for he's hardly played in the last 2 years.
I know, but he's part of the squad that Thomas Frank has nurtured, right?
The only players that get into that team is Mbeumo and Visser, right? And he wouldn't even start Visser probably over Solanke or whatever. So Mbeumo all day long. I'm just saying, it's not a light for light. And the Mates' adventure, right, in capitals. What would I be happy with in the league? I would be happy, obviously, with a cup and a decent league position. Listen, if we were sat here now with the cup and we were 7th or 8th, I can handle that. It's not a problem. 22 defeats is the problem for me. Maybe I'm more involved because I'm going home and away, and I feel it more when I'm driving back and I'm cursing the drive coming home, having watched it. Maybe I'm. The
aim of the game is to win, though, right? Thomas Frank is a huge risk. No, it's a huge risk to say this guy's going to take us forward. And that's my whole point. We want to stack Ange Postecoglou because we want to win and we want to progress. Why all of a sudden are people But why are people so okay to take a risk with someone like Thomas Frank? At the end of the day, most people ridicule Ange's CV all this season. He's only managed this, he's only managed that. The reality, he's won everywhere. What's Thomas Frank done? And the guy's never managed league and Europe side by side. And that's our big question about Ange moving into next season. We want someone that can manage on multiple fronts so that we can go and challenge on multiple fronts. Thomas Frank has never demonstrated that. In fact, with Brombury, he got to the Europa League qualifications and got dumped out twice. He's never demonstrated that he can sustain multiple competitions. And I think we're at the point now where
hang on, Johnny.
People don't like Ange, that they're to the point where it's getting to the point where it's anybody but Ange, rather than actually sitting there, and they're almost going against the expectations that they put on Ange Postecoglou, and they're willing to put them aside for someone like Thomas Frank. My whole point is, I'm okay with changing manager this summer because there is a lot of question marks around Postecoglou. Like, you give him a summer transfer window, we go into next season, the first 10 games it goes tits up. We are in a world of horrors next season trying to a new manager change, then you have to go into January transfer for that new manager, plus you got Champions League and everything else. So it's a huge risk. But if we're going to put standards on Postecoglou, let's not drop them for a guy like Thomas Frank said, let's take a huge risk. Let's actually get some serious names that look at and go, this guy can do it.
They said the same shit about Eddie Howe, right? There's no way. Eddie Howe's done nothing. All he's done is manage Bournemouth. He's taken them up from the divisions. But what's he ever won, right? He's been in the Championship. He had to leave them. He couldn't do it anymore. He did it for a bit, right? He got them high, but then he couldn't do it anymore, right? And he left. And when it was suggested Eddie Howe for Spurs, you want to see some of the comments when that came in, Dave, right? All I'm saying is, sometimes, for us as fans, when we're looking in, I get it. But I'm just telling you that, in the football community, forget YouTubers, forget us fans, Thomas Frank is very highly rated. Not by the majority of fans and stuff.
Why isn't any other club took a risk then? With all the manager changeover.
He has been offered jobs. He has been offered jobs, Dave. Anyway,
the thing is with Eddie Howe, though, Johnny, right? At Bournemouth, he demonstrated a style of football and he's brought that straight to Newcastle. Well, Thomas Frank plays counter-attacking football, and we're almost asking him, a bit like Nuno when he came to
Tottenham, think Thomas Frank
your way and come to Tottenham and play a bit more of an expansive brand. It's a huge risk.
If you think Thomas Frank only has one system, then you're mistakenly wrong.
I'm not saying one system, but let's be brutally honest. He may have different adaptations to the counter-attack, but predominantly he plays counter-attack because he's well aware of the clubs that he comes up against.
Have you seen his defence? Have you seen that defence he's got?
Yeah.
A Pinnock. I mean, come on. I mean, they're crap. They're crap. I mean,
I'm almost sure a couple of years ago people were touting him for centre back at Tottenham now.
It's true.
For Spurs.
Yeah, there were people saying get him in better than Ben Davies, better than Eric Dyer. Maybe it was a tongue-in-cheek comment. No,
Listen,
I think there's merit.
Hang on. Right, I've got to say, Sean. Right, first and foremost, right, I'm actually just defending Thomas Frank here, but I'm not saying he's my first choice. I'm just saying, right, this narrative. The poor.
You would take him over Ange, though, wouldn't you?
Saying this poor guy, right, who hasn't even set foot in the thing, right. They think he'd raped his children and his wife. I mean,
whoa.
Some of these comments that you've seen, some of the comments you've seen on Twitter, on YouTube are horrific. I can't believe this stuff. And let's be honest, whoever comes in now, Sean, whoever comes in now, I think is not going to be a fair crack of the whip, because the first thing that's going to be said was, if they're not unbeaten in the first 10 games, Ange was unbeaten in the first 10 games. And even if he hasn't won a trophy in his first year or his second year, I'm just saying.
I hear you. But when like, again, this is obviously impromptu devil's advocate. I love to see it. What I would say, like, I feel the same as, I mean, when Dave gets back, I want to hear Dave's take on.
I'm here.
Are you here? Okay. So, like, for me, like, I'm 100% sincere when I say I completely understand if a club let him have the job to continue. Yep. I also think that there's more than a valid argument to let him go based on whatever Daniel Levy feels is the bigger deal here. If you're focusing on the trophy and the reaction to that, and the fact that it was sort of, goal achieved as much as get back into the Champions League, that sort of thing, then fair enough. If they want to focus on the fact that the Premier League is, the most important bread and butter, and the fact that you don't have the Europa League as the option next year, then fair enough if you want to go that direction. For me, though, I'm okay with Ange staying if we can't get a monster name in. And I echo Dave's thoughts.
Sure.
Well, like I say, I think there's three names out there that are realistic. One of them is just about to sign up with Saudi Arabia, so you can write him off.
To the ones that are available.
Okay, so the ones that are Oliver Glasner, he looks like he said he's 99% staying. So, but that might just be talk, because you're not going to pitch yourself for another job whilst you're in the current one, especially after winning a trophy. But he might legitimately be very easily be happy where he is. So if he's off the list, after that, I'm thinking, like, there's no one else in the Premier League that I think is going to come, and then you'll. Hang on. So then you're working in the world of other risk, which is overseas, no Premier League experience. No, like Nagelsmann, and he already turned us down, but no Premier League experience. Xavi, I'd be very interested. I'd probably roll the dice for him, but no Premier League experience. So that's a risk. Edin Terzic, there's a risk on his control freak style, and there's also a risk on the fact that he hasn't played anywhere, and he wasn't exactly a baller when he was at Dortmund. But I am interested. I am interested in his adaptation and his technical and his tactical diversity. What I would like to know from you guys is what would change your mind on your stance. So to Dave, if you're Ange in and Frank ain't the guy, then who would be the guy that would make you say that's worth the dice roll? And Johnny, if you're Ange out, then at what level of manager would you say it ain't worth it? I'll stick with Ange and see where we are. Dave, I'll let you go first, mate, and then we'll go.
Let Johnny go first. I'm just going to bring up put in yesterday.
Well, interesting that Crystal Palace owners are having to go to UEFA to answer some questions about multi-club ownership. I think this week, I think they've got to go because if they can't prove that they're separate entities, then basically Crystal Palace could easily be thrown out of the Europa League next season. In which case, Oliver Glasner won't be in Europe, and with only 1 year left on his contract, that might be a thing. Yeah, there you go. That's so.
Well, couldn't they just do exactly what the guy at Nottingham Forest did, and just like step down temporarily?
Look, UEFA seem to pick and choose who they want to
100%.
Right? If you're a big name, you can get away with it, and if you're a small fry, so they're going to go and argue the case. I'm just throwing as a long shot here. If they do get thrown out, this is a guy who's won the Europa League, who's won the FA Cup with a lesser team. Right, let's be honest, he did an incredible job. What he's done with Mateta, who couldn't hit a barn door and is now looking like a monster. Ismail Sarr, who couldn't whose career had gone down the pan, what he's done. Tarek Mitchell looking like a baller at times, getting rid of Anderson and bringing in Lacroix from Wolfsburg, what he's done with him, what he did with Manuz. Right, there's lots of positives I can see in a short space of time that Oliver Glasner has done. So I would take Oliver Glasner. I would have probably taken Xavi, but looking at what Hansi Flick has done at Barcelona with more or less the same team and what he's done with Rafinha, who again, similar thing to Mateta, who's playing out wide and really was going nowhere. He's brought him into the middle and he's having a blinding season. So I'd still be interested in Xavi. Terzic is another one, of potentially of interest. I don't think, you can pull out. You're
going to get Nagelsmann? Do you think you can convince him?
Well, Nagelsmann Nagelsmann might be the one. I mean, the fact you got Champions League football. Look, if money comes in for a takeover bid and we're going to be a big budget and they're offering 200 million, right, or 250 million, Ancelotti, forget, he's gone to Brazil. And Luis Enrique, we know where he is.
Forget Jurgen Klopp as well, let's be honest.
Yes. But Glasner might be an option. Glasner, Nagelsmann, Xavi. I like Bonjour. I like Italiano, the Bologna coach. I think he's a really good coach. Won their first trophy in decades, and good with young kids. So. It's an interesting one to see. Listen, as I said to Dave just now, if Ange stays, I'll get behind him and hope he turns it round. But I do fear that we're going to see more of the same. I really do. I hope I'm wrong.
Dave, what about you, mate? What level of manager would make you turn, not Ange out, but what level of manager would you turn that guy in for?
Look, I know you said forget Jurgen Klopp. I mean, why? I'm sure he's looking at world football now after being out a little bit and might have the appetite to get back in for a big club, and we really want to progress to competing across all competitions. Trying to get Jurgen Klopp through the door would certainly, go a long way to achieving that. I look at Zinedine Zidane being on the market. Look what he done with Real Madrid. I don't think he'd be a bad punt. But then, what's his name? Michel at Girona. Done a brilliant job with them, part of the City group. I wonder, could we take a gamble on, someone like him? But then, I look at the rest of the market and I think maybe we've missed our boat. I think Ancelotti, people say that was never achievable. I mean, if Everton had them in the dugout, we could have got them in the dugout. Probably missed the boat on that. You look at Gasperini, I think he's gone to Roma now, isn't he? So we've probably missed the boat on that. So I'm looking around now and I think maybe to a certain degree, Unless you're looking at maybe a Jurgen Klopp or someone like that that's out of a job, I'm not sure what much there is for us to go out and get out there right now. I think maybe we've missed the boat. The fact that the board, look, at the end of the day, people go, the board kept them in and deserve a bit of praise to a certain degree. But also, even if they did put the feelers out there, no manager worth their sort was going to look at the injury crisis we had and said, yeah, I'm going to walk in there right now. No one. They all would have said, I'll leave it towards the end of the season. We see how it looks. So for me, Unless a name like that comes along, where maybe even a De Zerbi might tempt me to a certain degree. Apart from that, I'm sort of leaning. I'm like, well, look, despite everyone having their criticisms around Ange Postecoglou, whether he's good enough at this level, etc., the guy's delivered a Europa League trophy. So I'd much rather go on with that, a guy that actually knows how to deliver a trophy, than someone like Thomas Frank, and Iriola, and Marco Silva.
So, but if you're, because I agree with you in terms of the market's slightly dry. After 10 games, if it turns out to be a shit show, not only is the season on its knees, but on top of that, the market's even more dry then. You're not going to get someone in at the start of the season that's not like anyone that's out of work in September isn't a manager that you want. And all of those that are in work, you're not going to get. So, what do you do if you roll the dice, if you gamble, which is, let's be honest, like to dare is to do, Aude es facere, whatever the phrase is, but and Daniel Levy did it once and it worked out. If he does it again and he sticks with him and it's a shit show start to the season, then we really are screwed in September, aren't we?
Yeah, To a certain degree, but I think the fact that, a lot of these young guys have Europa League medals around their neck, that stands them 10 feet tall. I think a lot the fact that, some of the older guys of the squad also have Europa League medals around their neck, I think that also gives them that air of confidence, that air of arrogance going out there next season. And confidence is a big thing in players, especially in the modern day game. You hear about them, how much they, rely on confidence to a large degree. And I do think, that can push Tottenham Hotspur forward. I also think the fact that they've got a trophy, I think they understand now, and I think they'll have a taste for winning, and I also think, Tottenham have been taking the piss out of large lot. I think, once we won that Europa League final, you even seen likes of James Maddison, other players come out in the press sort of defending Tottenham's name, and I think that would be massive going forward, to be honest with you. I think that could kick us on, but at the same time, is it not a massive risk changing manager? And then you've seen reports of Romero. Apparently his future is linked to whether Postecoglou is going to be in a job or not. Bentancur is also, didn't he come out? Wasn't there something that came out and said he's holding off on signing that contract, until he knows who the manager's future is? Pedro Porro here today. There's a lot of interest in him. All of a sudden, if we do end up sacking Ange Postecoglou, how many of them players go, this is going to be as good as it gets at Tottenham and bouncing out? It's also a huge risk. And they're going to be your better players, by the way. Not your worst players. They'll be your better players.
Johnny?
The hate in the room is big. Listen, guys, right? Everyone's entitled to their opinion. If you don't like it, it is what it is. But look, at the end of the day, I go home and away. And, when I'm driving back from these defeats, it's been a hard one to take. And if you think you can just forget that, I personally can't. But I'll temper that with the fact that going away to Frankfurt and going away to Bodo and culminating in that magical night in Bilbao, has diluted lots of that. Because all three of those trips were fantastic trips. I mean, I was on that with Bodo, with Sean and Henry, and the final. They were fantastic. I just worry that, we're masking, what went on. I think a lot of people seem to have forgotten some of the terrible performances. I've spoken to Dave, after the games. You have messaged each other and you said to me, that was the worst game of football I think I've ever seen. It was a terrible shit show. And these are some of the things that staying in my head and a sort of an alarm bell, when Ange is saying, you can't have a campaign against, Europa League teams. And let's be honest, other than Galatasaray and Frankfurt, we didn't really come up against really strong teams. When we're going to be in the Champions League, right, we're going to be up against monsters. And I'm not quite sure how we're going to operate. We can't, for example, play the kids like he did at Galatasaray, rest the players and then come up against Ipswich and get beaten at home and have an excuse for it. We're going to have to play Romero and Micky van de Ven in the big games in the Champions League and play them in the cup. I mean, we have to improve the squad. I think everyone's massively universal in that. We do not have a strength of depth to have any serious campaign. And when you look at the likes of Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid and Manchester City, all three of them just about scraped into the next phase of the Champions League this season, right? Go on.
I want to counter the Europa League narrative to a certain degree as well, because I think we're diminishing it a little bit. And the reason why I say that, people go, we didn't really have a hard run. We should have won it. Okay, I'll go back to under Jose Mourinho, right? When Champions League teams were dropping down into Europa League and stuff, and the run we had where we got knocked out by Zagreb, by a manager who was in prison, by the way. We played Antwerp, Lask, no one's ever heard of them before, Ludogorets, and then we end up playing Wolfsberger, and we got knocked out by Zagreb. That's an easier run than the run we had this season.
Yeah, but two wrongs don't make a right, that Dave, do they? Like, you can sit there and say, well, that was a shit show, And if we didn't do it in this one, that would also have been a shit show. Like, you just because there was a failure in one doesn't mean that it's...
No. But I'm saying, we sit here and we almost go, we should have got there. We should have won it. We had an easy
Were they
run.
good teams?
We played harder teams this time around than what we did in the run under Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, but still teams we should have been beating.
Yeah, but we didn't. So it's not that easy.
That's what I'm saying. But
it's not that easy. This is what I'm saying. There has to be a degree of credit for him getting that done, because other managers like Jose Mourinho couldn't.
Yeah, 100%. There's I don't think anyone's discrediting what he's done. He's done something that no one else has done. He did it what Jose didn't do, what Conte couldn't do.
I just hear, we didn't really come up against anybody. Galatasaray, Rangers, Frankfurt, and teams like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I would still argue, Tottenham Hotspur by name should be beating these teams. But everyone goes, he should have got to the final, we should have won it. We didn't play anybody. Reality is, in Jose Mourinho's run, we didn't play anybody. We got knocked out. We got dumped out in embarrassing fashion.
But again, that should never have happened either, is what I'm saying, right? Like, just because that happened, that doesn't mean that the baseline is low and therefore you should give more credit than is due. And I'm giving him full credit for what he achieved. I just believe that the gravitas that is attached to the Europa League in its current format as the third biggest trophy that an English team can win, and it's an incredible achievement. It's bigger than the Carabao Cup. It's bigger than the FA Cup. I would make the argument if the argument is based on what is more difficult to win, what is the most difficult to win, I would make the argument, and I think it's a compelling one, that the Carabao Cup is actually far harder to win than the FA Cup or the Europa League, based on the fact that on the FA Cup, for the first 5 or 6 rounds, you don't have to actually play midweek, but you do for the Europa League and you do for the Carabao Cup. But in a world where what is harder than the technical pathway to the final or to win the Carabao Cup in a hardest possible format, you could get Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle, whatever, right, on the way. Whereas the hardest possible format to get to the final of the Europa League after the group stage includes teams this season like Bilbao, Lazio, Man United, and one or two others. And I just think that on that basis, the fact that the FA Cup gives you the weekends free for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and quarterfinals, then I don't think that you can make the only argument to say that the Carabao Cup isn't as hard as the FA Cup is the old argument that the big teams don't play their strongest 11. But I think the big teams these days, their second 11s or whatever, are very, very competitive and probably could easily beat the likes of most of the teams in the Europa League. So I just think that the gravitas attached to the Europa League in its current format there's a big disparity between that and the complexity and the challenge to win it. But that being said, I'm not deliberately undermining, or my intention isn't to undermine the magnitude of what he achieved. But I'm just saying, if the argument is that, well, Jose couldn't get past LASK, then we should give Ange full credit. I think we can give Ange full credit, but it shouldn't be because Mourinho failed at something he should have succeeded at.
No, but everyone goes, well, we were favourites, we should have won it. My whole point is, okay, we take that logic, we go back to the Jose Mourinho run, played easier teams, didn't win it. My whole argument is, we can sit here and say it's easy to win. It's not. It took us 41 years to win it. It's not that easy to win. That's the reality of it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have took us 41 years.
Let me ask you this. If Tottenham gets spanked by PSG, like spankarood 7-0, will that be a litmus test that, should Ange still be in charge at the time, will that make you go, shit, that is a sign of what's to come in the Champions League and maybe he isn't the guy? Or conversely, and I'll ask this to the chat as well, if we actually beat PSG somehow, by hook or by crook, does that put to bed any argument about whether Ange is the right guy to take us forward?
Good question. Look, I think if you were to be slapped up by PSG, I think it would concern people but going into Champions League. But be brutally honest, I'm concerned going into Champions League with this squad, regardless if we bring in another manager or not. To be quite honest with you, I don't think the quality is there in general. I think we've seen that a large parts of this season. I think, we have to go after some quality players this summer. That forward line ain't going to survive in the Champions League, which means then we're going to have to play more pragmatic. We're not good enough to hold out in the Champions League either. We have to genuinely improve. If we want Ange Ball to be a rip-roaring success, we have to go out and improve out wide, massively this summer. We have to go out and get a monster number 6 like you keep talking about. Put that in there. You have to put the extra pieces of the puzzle in to go and be competitive in the Champions League. If not, regardless of the manager, we're going to have it tough. If give Thomas Frank this squad, we're still going to be, largely find it tough in the, in the Champions League. It doesn't matter. The squad.
So if you get, so there's no manager, no matter what the level, what the caliber is. So you think this squad is really that bad? Do you?
In terms of overall quality and competing at the top, yeah.
Competing in the Champions League. Yeah?
I think we can do enough to shithouse our way through some games, but in general, we don't have enough quality to put enough points on the board. We don't have enough match winners a lot of times to be able to put consistent points on the board.
Okay. So then do you think then that this, whatever's going on at Tottenham right now, like the fact that we haven't got any clarity, I'm not even sure if we're going to get any clarity. I mean, maybe I think that the club needs to come out and back the manager one way or the other, but there is an argument to say, well, why does there need to be an announcement? Like other teams don't come out and like confirm the guy that is going to stay every year when he's in a contract. But I think in this situation, given the amount of speculation, there needs to be some clarity. The fact that there isn't, and the fact that other teams are doing business, do you think that all of this is going to be a like a wedge in the summer's window, and therefore the chances of Ange either way? Like, do you think that could there be an excuse on the horizon that the reason why next season isn't a good season is because the lack of clarity around this decision and whatever else is going on with Cullen and all the things that might be happening in the background with Charington and all that? Do you think that there's any the knock-on effect of that will mean that some of the low-hanging fruit has been taken? We might end up like we've already seen, and Bremo's going to Manchester United. Cunha's already done business. Chelsea have already snapped up the best value in the striker market. Saudi Arabia seems to be coming in and like reconstructing, reorganizing the coffers of some of our competitors in like Manchester United. I just personally feel like we're creating a hammer, like an unnecessary harness for ourselves around not being able to get out and do things because we don't know what the hell's going on with Ange or otherwise.
Look, 100%. And I think, from Ange Postecoglou's point of view, he's clarified, right, that what he wants going into next season. He sort of wants to be here with his words. But I think when you look at Daniel Levy, even the speech to players after winning the Champions League, or, he's addressing in the match day program against Brighton and stuff like that, it's sort of like, there's little words in there that he can sort of put in that says, right, this is happening next season together, without actually coming out and making an official statement. But I'm yet to see that. And I just wonder how much of it is them sitting back and going, well, let's see what becomes available, or if anybody comes to us that, is maybe more stable than maybe Ange Postecoglou heading into next season. I think the club are sort of basically sitting back and just assessing the situation, maybe putting feelers out there. And I think if they don't feel like they can get a better name than Ange Postecoglou, then we'll probably keep Postecoglou. I think maybe that whole Thomas Frank thing was maybe a tester. Is that maybe the caliber or level of manager that we can actually, get in here at this moment in time? And, they put that out there as a tester and then gauge any reaction from fans. And then, also with the uncertainty around the boardroom and stuff like that, there's been wild rumors the last 24 hours of massive investment coming from either ENIC or outside sources. But then it's also people saying potentially there's a takeover happening and stuff like that. So there's so much uncertainty around Tottenham's future. And right now, we're paying the price for it in this mini market that's open before the Club World Championship. Teams are acting, they're getting their players in, they're getting their business done nice and early, which means then when it stops other teams being able to come in for these guys, it's done, signed, sealed, and delivered. And then they can sit back and go, right, we've got our main targets. Now we can sit back and assess and pick where we want to improve the other areas of the squad. And I think that's where we're missing out right now, getting our main targets in the door. That seems to be this window is what teams are doing. Their main targets, where there's a lot of interest, they're getting them signed, sealed, and delivered. And we're missing out on that window right now.
So why is that? Like, are there... And why are we late here? Like, I feel like Daniel Levy has had
There's uncertainty around his role this season, right? Is he going to be here this season?
What, around Daniel Levy's role?
Yeah, isn't there rumours that, maybe he might be stepping further up? That's coming in.
Yeah, I've mentioned it on the videos I've done and stuff. I can't. He's the the second shareholder, right? He owns 33% or whatever it is of ENIC, and ENIC owns 75% or whatever it is of Tottenham. So I just think unless this guy Charington is really coming in as the almost like the spy on the wall for the Joe Lewis Trust, and they're keeping an eye on what Daniel Levy's doing. But if that's the case, then what I don't understand is why it is that we're not. These things don't need to be happening now. They could have happened at any prior point. They could have happened any time. And it drives me up the fucking wall that we are behind the 8 ball. And I feel like, there's certain players or at least certain positions that should be non-negotiable, regardless of whether Ange is the manager, regardless of whether or not it's someone else. If Paratici's coming back in, and we still don't know if he is, but we assume he is, and working alongside Vinny, couldn't they have been working behind the scenes and started these negotiations before now? Because, I feel like regardless of who is the manager, we need a better winger. We definitely need a better right winger. You could make the argument we definitely need a better striker. We definitely need to move on some players from the squad to make some room for others. And I know Ange says he doesn't like working with a 6, although again, it's a head scratcher to me because when he was at Celtic, he had Callum McGregor. He was the most important cog in that whole system, him and Kyogi Furuhashi. And yet we don't use a Callum McGregor in this model. And it's really odd. But I feel like regardless of who, and you also need a fullback, right? You need a fourth fullback, which we don't have. You can make the argument that could also be a double, a left-sided centre-back thing as well. So for me, I'm just sitting there kind of going, you don't really need to know if Ange is the guy to be at least identifying the talent if it's true that Paratici is the guy that's making these decisions. And that's the sort of direction of travel, that it's less about what the manager wants, especially if you're unsure about Ange and whether he should be here or otherwise, and the club make the decision to go on a 10-game and we'll roll the dice thing and see where we are. Even though, as I've aforementioned, that's a stupid thing to do because the market will be dry. But in that world, you don't need to ask Ange who it is that he wants because you don't know if he'll be here. So just go and get the players you want. And that's what's driving me up the wall, Dave.
Look, it's driving me up the wall. Look, my only hope is that whatever structural changes, whatever the outcome looks like, after it's all done, that it really is geared up to us kicking on and it succeeds that way, because I think that's the feeling of many fans. I think many fans from what I'm seeing across reaction is that they're embracing that and they feel like, this is change and this could really sort of kick us forward. Whereas me, I'm a little bit hesitant on it. I almost feel like, we've delivered the Europa League trophy. All this could have been done in a time when we were losing Premier League games, all these structural changes. And like you said, we could have had it all in place. And I just feel like now, when there's an opportunity to really use a window, sort of bring in a marquee signing or two, sort of get fans licking their lips, which is going to help you out in your season ticket sales, your shirt sales, and everything else moving forward.
Yeah.
We're sitting here pussyfooting about, changing this, changing that. And we still have the medical department to figure out, by the way, among other departments and stuff like that. It's absolutely chaos. The structure inside the club is chaotic. And if that's chaotic, are we surprised we see chaoticness on the field, in the dugout and stuff like that? We should really be using this moment right now. Deliver an Eze, deliver a Guay, someone like that, and go, okay, Spurs fans, this is what's coming up. This is a prelude. Now we're going to make some changes, structural changes, while the Club World Championship's going on. We're not involved, so it doesn't affect us. And then just give us time once we get that sorted, head into the new season, couple more signings, get your lips wet. And again, it's just sort of, they've missed the marker for me.
I completely agree, mate. And I just feel like, even if you are trying to pitch to a new manager right now, there was reports that Inzaghi had, Ben Jacobs said this, that Newcastle and Tottenham had chats with Inzaghi, right? I don't know why Newcastle would want to have a chat with Inzaghi, because they surely they must realise that Eddie Howe has got them where they are, where they've got to. But if Tottenham had a chat, if you're a manager, you want to know, if I get a job opportunity at Tottenham Hotspur, I want to know who's my boss, how stable is it all, who am I reporting to, what's the situation, how much money do I have, what are the things, what are the risks on the horizon, what's the compensation. Compensation is just part of the conversation, right? You need to know, how much of a stable environment am I walking into and am I leaving another club for? And I think at the moment, from the outside in, the answer to all of that is, it's fucking chaos. We don't know if there's new owners. We don't know if the Paratici thing. We don't know if Scott Munn still there. I don't know.
I'm keeping some of my best players. Some of the contracts are up. Son has 1 year left. Romero's coming to a. You know what I mean? It's absolute chaos, man. There's no stability there for any manager to go, I can work with that, the bulk of that squad, the recruitment team, that's not in chaos, that's all stable. They've got a good recruitment system, stuff like that. The whole thing's in absolute chaos. There's no stability. So if they're walking into a place that's unstable and then Tottenham make a change here, all of a sudden they're gone. Do you know what I mean? It's madness, man.
Well, this is it,
you wouldn't
right?
run a business like that.
So if Daniel Levy makes the decision to change the manager and then in 3 months' time, Qatar take over, are they going to want to change the manager again? And if that's the case, it's just not the manager. That's not just the manager that's asking those questions. It's the player and the agents that are asking those questions as well. Rumours are that Mark Gay, he turned Tottenham down. We don't know why he turned Tottenham down. Maybe it's because that the project at Newcastle is pretty stable, pretty clear. The trajectory is pretty strong. Why did Mbeumo choose to go to Manchester United? I mean, that story.
A bit dicey.
Sorry?
That decision, I think, will come back to bite him. I think it's a poor decision on his behalf, or maybe he's been led by his agent in the wrong direction, because you look at any player that's gone there, it doesn't matter what reputation they've had, whether it's a young player going there with a big reputation in the game and he's going to be this, he's going to be that, or whether it's a player already with reputation in the game. None of them have survived. They've all walked away with a worse reputation. Things have gone wrong on the football pitch and everything else. I think it's a very poor decision. I would argue that's a money-orientated decision rather than thinking with his footballing brain.
100%, mate. 100%. I mean, look, but you could make the argument that Manchester United is a blip, right? At the end of the day, they've managed to convince Cunha and they've managed to convince Mbeumo to go there, Bremo to go there, at their very weakest. And I guess that, like I said in the last show, it goes to show you that no doesn't matter how far Manchester United fall from their perch, they are still Manchester United and they can still attract the best, right? The brand doesn't just die because they've had a terrible season. Yeah. But next season, they don't have European football. So they haven't got that distraction of 2 games a week. They can focus entirely on the domestic. And if they go about fixing that forward line, which it looks like they're very close to doing, if they get rid of Højlund, they bring in a top striker, whoever that might be. I mean, imagine if you hear that Gyökeres is going to go there next. You'll just be like, oh my God, United are back in the top 4, or probably could be if Amorim can get his squad together. Just quickly, Drew Zilla, thank you so much, mate. Big up to you. Big up, gents. Great show. Appreciate you, Drew. Yeah, it's always a good chat. I don't know where Johnny's gone. I think before he dipped off, his phone went. So I hope he's okay. But when he comes back, we can bring him back in. I just wonder whether or not at the moment. I mean, Leroy Sané is the rumours that we're going to get him. What's your take on him, Dave?
Do you know what? I always say to Jack, I find him a bit underwhelming to a certain degree, but I would prefer bringing him in because, he can provide a bit of quality. He can provide a bit of spark. Can provide a goal out of nothing more so than what Matisse Tel can. I think with Matisse Tel, you're sort of buying potential, but then again, it comes down to how you nurture that potential. If you don't nurture it, well, then, it's a waste of money. So, look, I think Leroy Sané, someone like that probably would open the gates for another one to follow in, to be honest with you. That's where I would say get that, because I think you get other names like that looking at Tottenham and go, let's go.
Edison, the Atalanta 8/6. He's an 8, but he can drop a little bit deep and control the game. He's being linked now because Bruno Fernandes turned down a move to Saudi. Saudi are looking to throw the money at him. If he was to sort of take his career seriously, no disrespect to Saudi Arabia, but if there was an offer that was accepted from Atalanta for him, would you love it if Tottenham were to go after him? And would you like to see him stuck in that sort of deeper lying holding role?
It's definitely sort of in the realms of a player that we need in that role, someone that provides a bit of steel, that loves the defensive side of the game, that can read the game well. I think he's definitely someone that we need in there. I think Bentancur, from what we've seen, I think ideally on the ball, he's the right sort of guy, but in terms of performing that over 90 minutes or consistently, I think there's question marks. And what I've seen with Bentancur at Tottenham Hotspur, I'd argue, I actually think he's better as a number 8. I think he provides goals from that midfield. We've seen that underneath Antonio Conte, and I feel like we're almost holding him back to a certain degree, playing him in that role. So I think bring someone in and let free him up a little bit, going forward, I think would be ideal for sure.
What about just sticking with that 6 role? Stories out. I mean, I don't know if there's how much truth there is, and again, I don't know Like if any of these things are going to happen, it just drives me up the wall. But until we get some clarity, then I think we're going to be sitting on our hands a little bit. But it won't stop us talking about it on the Spurs Talk Show, at least. Hugo Larsson, the Frankfurt Swedish little bomber, quality player. Let me get your thoughts on him, and also Angel Gomez. Right, so I've been looking at Angel Gomez on the Y Scout tool. He isn't a 6 in any way, shape, or form. This guy is like, I don't know how to describe him. He feels a little bit like he's more of a Pape Sarr type of player, but just a smaller version, like, you know, or maybe not even that. Maybe like a Kobbie Mainoo, like sort of someone that can run around, bomb forward, like thread a pass, lovely little intricate work. But he doesn't feel like a 6. He feels like he's an 8, and we've already got about 900 of those. So even though he's a free transfer, do you see that deal being used as like a weight, like almost like the Manor Solomon thing, where you just take advantage of the fact that he's free? If it works out, great. If it doesn't, you can sell him with the English tax in a year's time for 25, 30 million.
Look, I look at a rumour like that, Sean, and I think it was an easy rumour to make because of Tottenham's need for homegrown players. But I think, you know, when I look at the situation now, you know, if you bring, you know, some of these youngsters or whatever, I don't think there's that urgency anymore. So for me, you know, I'm not sure he's the player we should be in for. Plus, I'm very hesitant to bring in any midfielder from France, given the shit we bought from there down the years. Also, I look at him, and I'm being honest, Premier League isn't cut out for a player like him in that midfield. Look what happened to Harry Winks. Similar size, similar stature, similar player. Gets on the ball, does the simple things, passes it 5 yards back to the centre-back. Right. I'm sorry. Within the system and where we want to play with Ange, that midfielder needs to get turned and play it fucking forward. And he's too, for me, I just look at someone like Harry Gomez or you know, Angle Winks, whatever you want to call him. I don't think he's the answer to what we need in the midfield. I think you're bringing in another Harry Winks, to be honest, and I'm not sold on him whatsoever.
And Hugo Larsson?
Hugo Larsson, look, I haven't seen a whole lot of him. You know, I play a lot of Football Manager. He's quite good in Football Manager, actually. But to be honest with you, I haven't seen a whole lot of him, lad.
Okay. I think he's a quality player. I think he's going to get better and better. And as I've said a few times, if you could go and make that magical Viking spine, you get Gyökeres. I know it's never going to happen. You got Decky, you get Hugo Larsson, and you get Lucas Berghvall, and then Ulrika Johnson's up in the stands every week doing Ulrika things. I mean, I'll be turning up at that stadium about 6 hours early looking for the Swedish birds rolling around. If Sonny's there as well, there's going to be some talent offs. Do a little fashion show between the Korean girls and the Heidi Highs. It's going to be a sensational season. I don't care who the manager is. I'll be outside that stadium early every single week. Johnny, welcome back, mate. You okay? All okay?
Sorry, yeah, all good, all good. Sorry, I had to take a call, and I thought it was going to be short and sweet, but it wasn't. I was waiting for the call ages ago. So anyway,
we're talking about Angel Gomez, mate, and just the more I've looked at him, I always thought he was like a defense, like a midfield, like a box to box that leaned defensively, but he doesn't. He's very much he's a box to box that leans to the top end of the pitch, a bit like Kobbie Mainoo or something. But I just don't know what the motivation is to buy him.
Well, listen, look, at Man United, he was highly, highly rated. It was a bit of a shock that he went out to Lille, to be honest with you. But look, he's been linking up with Jonathan David. I just worry in this day and age of sort of big midfields, seeing that tradition going on, whether at 5'6", was he 5'5", 5'6"? You know, okay, you know, look at Kante and some of the Chelsea midfielders. They're not, you know, destroyers. They're not big. I just wonder, you know, whether you can get easily dominated. Saying that, listen, Messi's tiny. You know, shouldn't be a thing. I'm not sure about his physicality in the Premier League. That's my...
Yeah, he doesn't have it.
I don't think he has it. And that's what worries me. You know, getting knocked off the ball. We've seen a lot of those players. And that's why I love Berghvall. You know, 6'2". He's done tremendous amount of work in the gym with Kulu. And we've seen his progression, you know, that upper body strength and so on and so forth. So, you know, for me,
I don't know why we need Angel Gomez. We've already got Berghvall, Benson, Sarr. Like we've all and Decky can play in there if needed. I don't know why we need another.
Bissouma leaving, maybe.
Yeah, but even then, like Bissouma, like if you're making space in the squad to get rid of Bissouma, you need to bring in a defensive guy, not someone that leans more towards the top end of the pitch. You need someone to take care of the bottom end. And I just think that I think we said it 1,000 times. Like, not that there's any links to it. It's just us lot that all talk about him all the time. But if you can go and get a Palhinha from Bayern Munich, then that's the sort of profile that you want. Unless you change and you go to a Thomas Frank style system, and when Thomas Frank plays a back three, then you don't need a 6 in the guise of Palhinha, because Palhinha, what Palhinha makes up for in his ball retention and recovery, he doesn't have in his ball playing. And so if you're playing a back three with wing backs, then you don't also need a midfielder in there that doesn't, isn't that capable on the ball. You need a different style of 6, like a Samuel Ritchie, but he's already gone to Milan. So that's a dead story. But you need, you've got to think about, and again, this is one of those things where, unless you get the manager, are you going to know what you need?
You need a Wanyama style sort of midfielder in there, someone that breaks up play, goes around, wins the ball, and just moves it on to the ball players.
Well, then that is Palhinha, right? Palhinha is not someone that oh, he's going again. Palhinha is the guy that sniffs out the threat, doesn't sniff out the opportunity, and hands it over to someone that does. But like I say, that to me makes a hell of a lot of sense if you're playing a 4-3-3. But if you're playing a 3-4-3, where you've got the centre backs, I don't necessarily. I think you maybe make up for that. You get one of your centre backs to. If you keep Romero, then Romero can maybe play in the centre and then be that guy that steps forward, because he's the best passer of the ball from a centre back position in the Premier League, in my opinion, right? Or close to it. I think he is. But you don't need a Palhinha in front of that if you've got a back three. But if you have a back four, then you do need that steely 6 who just hands it over. But if Thomas Frank comes in, then you don't need it. So
either of them systems you're talking about, the whole idea of having that guy, whether it's that extra centre back as the back 3 or that CDM if you're playing a back 2, is basically to allow your fullbacks to get forward. That's what this guy's whole role is. He provides that steal so you can get an extra. Because usually, the old day, it was one goal forward, and if the other goes forward down that side, the other one tucks in and sits back. That made the 3 traditionally. But now in modern day of football, that whole role is about allowing your 2 fullbacks to get forward, to get extra players and extra bodies and extra runners moving forward. So that's what that whole position is about. Basically, it's just about giving you that bit of steel, pulling down attacks and giving away free kicks if you need to get everybody back behind the ball, slow it down. Someone that can read the game, turn it over, punt that ball forward so that, you've already got your players in the half and you can go and punish them because you caught them on the break. That's what that whole role is about.
So if you're going to go to a back, so if Thomas Frank comes in, and Thomas Frank is a sort of manager that does throw in a 4, throw in a 3, whatever, then, let me ask you a sort of open-ended question here. Is there a need for for another centre back at the club regardless, or do you think we have enough? I know Dragassin's out injured for a fair while, but in Danso, Dragassin, Romero, and Van der Ven, and then one of these young players like Ashley Phillips or whoever, or Vuskovic, do you think that those guys are ready for the Premier League, Champions League level if there was an injury to Micky Van der Ven? What do you see doing? And also, other part of the question is, if you're going to pivot to a manager that does play wing-back systems, then on that provision, is it essential that we also get a full another wing-back in this summer?
Look, regardless whether you want to play, 5 across the back is what I call it. I don't call it 3 across the back. I call it 5 across the back. We're still going to need another full-back regardless. And if you want to play 4 at the back, you're still going to need another. You need 4 full-backs, to be able to get through the whole season. When it comes to centre-backs, I don't actually think there's a massive urgency for Tottenham to go into the market. If you can get Romero to commit to a new contract, you keep Micky Van der Ven, you've got Danso. Look, I don't rate Dragassin, but my dad keeps telling me, you've gone too early, son. You need to give him a chance. So look, I'll give him next season, and then I'll make my final judgment. But then behind that, like you said, you've got Vuskovic, who looks incredible, by the way. I know they're in other leagues and stuff like that, but every league that he's been sent to, he's made a step up. He scores goals. He's a man already at his young age. You've got Ashley Phillips, who has gone out there and developed this season. Alfie Dorrington won a League Cup up in Scotland, and they don't come around every time. Usually that's picked up by Celtic or Rangers. He helped them beat Celtic to get over the line and pick up that trophy. So I think we've got more than enough young talent there. You're talking about, 6, 7 centre-backs right now? And that's even if Ben Davies departs. So we've already got more than enough squad depth. But when I look at Vuskovic, though, by the way, I'm not convinced his final position might be centre-back at Tottenham. I almost think with the size of him, because he can play a little, he's good in the air, he can get around, he's mobile, and he's a threat from set pieces and stuff. I almost wonder, do you convert him into that CDM role? Now, I know some people would say maybe he doesn't have the pace to play there. I think maybe he doesn't have the pace to play a box-to-box midfielder. But I think if you're asking for a guy at number 6 who covers side to side, you know, and in front of 2 centre-backs, I think someone like Viscovic, you know, can almost open up the formations, give you a bit more flexibility if you do convert him into that sort of CDM. Because the fact that you can already play centre-back, I think, you know, out of possession, you can revert to a back 3 and get him to slot in there, or, you know, you can tinker with what you want to do to a certain degree. I think he opens up a bit more flexibility for managers if you do teach him to play that CDM role as well.
Yeah, I've not seen enough of him, to be honest, apart from I've just seen the highlights of his aerial stuff and like the overhead kick and that. So I'll reserve judgment. But yeah, maybe I'll take your word for it if that's what you think. I know you're a good spot. The one thing I would like to see is that if he is coming in, if he really is this aerial threat, you know, the way that that Eddie Howe sorted out Dan Burn, right, and just had this threat last season where it's impossible to mark. If you've got a guy that's 6'5", 6'6", and from corner kicks, if you start the guy outside the box, you know, at the back of the box, like 5-6 yards out, then if the corner kick taker knows where to put it and it gets it there 9 out of 10 times and it's all set up and it doesn't have to be the same place every time, but it's like, you know, on this, we do number 1, it's here, number 2, it's over here, whatever. If Dan Burn makes that run, you are like the defense has to make a decision. Like, do you go and man mark a guy that's already outside the box? If so, you're leaving space everywhere else. If not, and you just zonal it, then the guy has already got 4 inches on most people, can then take a run and jump and get that leap on them. And if you get the ball to where it's supposed to be, absolute threat. He got those 2 goals, he got the goal in the Carabao Cup final. And then in the England game, Thomas Tuchel did exactly the same thing. And it worked, it hit the bar, right, the next weekend. And so I just sit there and go, maybe we could have our own version of that with Viscovic, because what is he, 6'6" already, 6'7"?
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's well, I think he's 6'4", if not more already. Yeah, he's a big
and
guy.
He's 18 now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's turned 18 now.
Yeah, so still grows until he's 21. Yeah, so I don't know, mate. I just think that it's one of those. I agree with you about the centre back issue. I don't think Romero. Do you think Romero's going to go anymore? I don't think Atletico Madrid have got the money, so I don't know where he goes if not there.
Yeah, look, he has mentioned La Liga. You know, I think that's probably extends more than just Atletico. I think if you're Romero, though, you know, they do have a lot of South Americans at Atletico. You know, the way they play it sort of would suit Romero to a degree, that level of shithousery that's embraced and all that sort of stuff. So I think that'll be absolutely massive for sure. Just give me 1 second, Sean. My missus ring me. Give me 1 second.
No worries, mate. As you going off, Johnny's back. Tag team. Here we go.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. I'll explain to you who I was on the phone to after. No worries.
We're only going to go for another 5 or so minutes. Is everything okay with you, though? You're good, yeah?
Yeah, all good. It was my mate, right?
Okay.
He watches us for the first time, Sean.
Oh, hello, mate. Nice to.
No, he was. He's off now.
Okay.
Back to work, mate. Back to work on business. But he said, like, yeah, he's.
So we've got some good news that you can share.
No,
you can't share. Obviously, you can't share here, but you can tell me some stuff in the background. Yeah, maybe.
No, he said he enjoyed it. He said he enjoyed it, and it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Oh, nice. Well, I appreciate that. So, Johnny, we were just talking about the centre back and the fullback issue, right? So the kind of question is, and I'll let you go, and then we'll see if there's one last sort of question to round it off. Is like with regards to the back 3 or the back 5 model and the back 4 model. You don't need a 6, or you don't need a 6 like Pellegrini if you do play a back 5. But with regards to the centre backs, we've already got 7 centre backs, not including Davies, who's probably going somewhere to Wrexham or to Milan. But you do have we've got a gap in the fullback wing back system. Do you think it's smarter for Tottenham whenever we get through this mess of a environment we're in right now? Do you think it makes more sense to get just an out and out fullback, and if so, someone like a Kyle Walker-Peters that can double up and do the kind of, you know, like the homegrown club trained thing to help us out in that little pickle that is a pickle, by the way? Or do you want to go and get someone that's better to compete with Jed Spence, Udogie and Porro? Or do you want to get someone that can play on the left side of a centre-back as well, like a Hincapie, like I know you mentioned before, but if you're going to go and get someone like him, it's going to take away from the budgets elsewhere that we might need later on, right? So how do you want to see us sort of incorporate our needs at the back end of the pitch there?
To be honest with you, I don't think our problem lies in the back of the pitch. Our problem lies in the front part of the pitch. That's my personal opinion. But I think we need a quality left centre back, left back. That's why I mentioned Hincapié. So if you could get a Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen and a Carl Walker-Peters who's happy to come and sit on the bench and play the odd minutes, I'm very happy with that, because I don't think you can do any better personally than Romero, Micky van der Ven, Danso, Pedro Porro, Destiny Udogie, Jed Spence. I think that's a fantastic framework that most clubs would be more than happy to embrace. And that I say that's why I find it quite incredible that we've conceded like 65 goals this season. And that's why I think the system needs to be changed. But I think the problem lies with not having that monster six sat in front of this fantastic defence. To mop up and seek out problems before they arise. I think that's where the problem lies. And also, as I said, I don't, whilst I think we have a world-class or a very high caliber defence, I don't think we have a very high caliber attack.
What about the midfield? Right, if you're just
that's a problem.
It's a problem, isn't it? Right. So, but if Angel Gomez isn't the guy, right, and let's, I don't know, if Ange does stay, he doesn't seem like he gives a shit about a specific six. Is Pape Sarr sellable this summer?
Well, I wouldn't sell Pape Sarr. I think what's name's going to go. Bissouma is, if anyone's going to go, be Bissouma. Listen, if you get the money in, I'd just go all out and get Edison, mate. Plop him right in the middle of that park and Bob's your uncle, mate.
If he entertains a move to Saudi, though, I don't want him, mate. I don't want people that are like.
Listen, you don't know it. I mean, listen, it's paper talk. Listen, I'd move to Saudi, right, for the amount of money they're offering.
A lot of players are moving out of there, though, as soon as their contracts are done. There's no long-term committal to it.
No.
Yeah, some of them are terminating their contract to get out early. So that's the ex-City player, right?
Yeah, look at Jordan Henderson, right? Went out there and couldn't wait to get out. To go from, like, imagine you were talking about Hernandez. Imagine going Frank Kessie. No, not for me, thanks. But imagine going from the euphoria of playing for PSG and that incredible atmosphere, and then going out to Saudi Arabia in front of 700 people. It's nah. I can understand it, but I can understand it. You're 31, 32 years of age, coming to the end of your career. Fine. But, for someone like John Duran to go out there for 70 odd million and God knows what from Aston Villa at his age, when you've got the world ahead of you, I'm not quite understanding that. I guess he'll still get in the squad for Colombia for the World Cup, but it was a very strange deal for his career and, well, for everyone really. Just helped Aston Villa. I think Spurs need really to concentrate on the, like I said, we need an Eze, we need an Abuemo type of player. We need world class, because if you look,
that's pretty much done, isn't it?
Well, let's wait and see, right? Nothing's done until it's done. But I'm just saying, if you have someone like an Eze and a Abuemo, what you're doing straight away is you can't go one-on-one with Eze. You've got, you're going to draw two players to him every time he comes with the ball. So you're going to automatically, by having a player of that ilk, draw players in and create space for the likes of Maddison and the midfielders to work, right? Or coming outside. The same with Abuemo. I don't think that Brennan Johnson makes you think, oh my God, I've got to get out to him, because he never goes past anyone. I mean, I don't remember the last time Brennan Johnson went past the ball and went past the player. I want him to be.
He did in the first 20 minutes against Brighton on the last day. He was still pissed though, wasn't he?
Yeah. But like, the thing is, a top coach would say, look, Brennan, mate, you need to get the animal in you. You need to go past the guy. Yeah, but what if I get brought down? So what if you get brought down? You'll win a free kick, right? That's what you got to do. Take the pain.
The thing is, as well, I want to expand on the point you made, Johnny, that I don't think our problems lie defensively in that. I think you're absolutely spot on. I think, our problems do lie from the midfield into the forward line. It's not good enough to sustain attacks. It's not good enough to sustain pressure. We don't create an awful lot of good chances. We almost shithouse a lot of our goals. And when we do force teams into mistakes, we don't punish them. And then a lot of the time, then when the ball comes our way, there's no real steeliness in that front line or that midfield that can turn it over and you know, keep them in their half. And I think we've seen that to a large degree this season. And you think about, you look at Arsenal's midfield, look at the names it's stacked with. You know, you look at Real Madrid's midfield, look at the names it's stacked with. Liverpool's midfield, look at the names it's stacked with. Man City's, I know they've had to have a reshuffle, but in general, in years gone by, look at the names it's stacked with. In our midfield, we've got individually good players, you know, but it's not a great midfield, you know. It's in possession, on its day, it can be good, but a lot of times it's bang average, you know, and then out of possession, on its day, it can be good, but a lot of times it's bang average. And that's why the ball keeps coming. You know, that's why we face a lot of shots and goals, a lot of crosses and everything else, because the guys in that midfield and the guys in that forward line, they're not good enough in terms of what we're asking them to do, which is go on the press, force mistakes, sustain pressure in their half. And that is where we need the serious investment this summer, in that midfield and in that forward line. You need it in the midfield so that you can start getting a grip and actually battling that midfield rather than just coming at you all the time. And then once you get that sorted, then you need the quality in the forward line to make all that work done by the people behind you and finish it off and punish teams. And that's where the major investment needs to happen this summer. We invest right in that area. So it doesn't matter who's in the dugout. We would be a much better team on the football pitch next season, and a lot more competitive.
Yeah, I don't disagree with both of you. I think, 100%. There's lots to work out and all that stuff. So Terry, thanks for sending this through, mate. I'm trying to figure out what this all means. This is the Premier League squad. I think we know the Premier League squad. So we've got spots in the non-homegrown. Thank you for sending this through. So Sonny, Bentancur, Bissouma, which he could go. Romero, Richalison, Kulu. We've still got 4 more spots available there. Homegrown, Spence, Maddison, Johnson, Austin, Solanke, and Danzo. And these are the ones who don't need to register. That's no problem. So we've got loads of space in the squad. The only thing we don't necessarily have is space in the squad for UEFA, unless we sell 1 or 2 of these on the non-homegrown side here. So Bissouma would be the most likely to go off of that list. And basically it, isn't it?
Vuskovic is not going to be at the club this season. He's not ready, so he's going to go out on loan. So everybody else is going to be a part of it, isn't it? So we've only really got 2. So if you sell Bissouma and you sell, Kulusevski will come off the list because there's no way he's going to be playing football until next year.
Is his injury that bad? Is it?
Yeah, 6 to 12 months.
So club trained, minimum 4 for the maximum squad. Austin's the only one at the moment. Wow. So that's why we need Kyle Walker-Peters back.
Yeah, Kyle Walker-Peters. I was told about Kyle Walker-Peters back months ago. I'm going like November time that he'd be willing to come. So, why wouldn't he?
So it's really just all about getting the non-homegrown number down to make room if you want other non-homegrown. So if you wanted to get an Edison, then you need to get rid of Bissouma, basically.
Maybe we sold. I forgot we got Dragusin as well. I mean, he won't be fit for ages either. But his injury is horrendous, isn't it? Yeah, it was a bad injury as well. So.
Well, you're saying Kulusevski's out until January?
I think more like maybe February.
Wow.
Well, it's a 6 to 12 month injury. So when did he go down?
He went down in. It was just before the semi-final, wasn't it? Early May.
Yeah.
No, it would have been at late April. You're right. Yeah, late April. Wow. Yeah. So it's not. I look at that squad though, and think on that basis, do you think? Is Sarr really the guy? If you can go, because obviously, what's his name will be on there, right? So you bring in Sane, he's going to go straight onto that 20th spot, right? So then
Premier League, we got no problem, have we?
No problem with Premier League. It's just about UEFA. Yeah.
You see, now there's the problem, right? That squad is not strong enough to have a competitive run in the Champions League. No Kulusevski. Vuskovic, you can rule out. He's not going to be in that. So there is room. There is room.
Who are the 2 players that's on the UEFA list that is not? The 5 players that's not on the On the other, it's some of these youngsters, is it? Odebear. Yeah, okay.
Because you have the UEFA B list, so you can put your under 21 players on that if you intend to play them.
So you can put Odebear on the B list, can you?
No, I'm not sure someone like Odebear. I think it's more your academy. It's your academy players. So if you've got like Micky Moore, for instance, you don't need to register him in the squad. You can put him on the B list and you can still play him.
Interesting. All right. I really appreciate you sending me that, because that gives you food for thought on what you can do with the squad. I appreciate that. Terry, thanks, mate. A couple of super chats, guys, and then we round off. Phil P saying, Cyprus Phil in Sane, insane in the Park Lane. Oh, Cyprus Phil. Insane in the Park Lane. Insane in the brain.
You got to get him in just for that song alone.
It's just a shame his name isn't Sane, but it's close. I appreciate your work there. Yeah, it's insane. Well done, Phil. And then El Dante saying, Ravella, he's the Lazio 6, isn't he? He's a classy passer, that guy. Absolute baller. He's not great getting forward, but he doesn't need to be. He should be our number 6 target. 2.5 average tackles per match last season. He's a beast of a player, and only 23. One for Paratici to do. Do you know what, El Dante? I think he's a classy player. The way he draws the ball out, he never gets tackled as he progresses the ball forward. He's a really, really, really interesting player. I don't know what he's worth. Probably 40 million quid or something. I don't know. But yeah, class player. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Caleb, Robson, and for the members, and Lee Harvey, and also El Dante again. Appreciate you all. Dave, what's coming up tonight on your channel, mate? 6 p.m, aren't we over there together?
Yeah, 6 p.m. Me, you, Johnny, Sam, myself, and Jacko. To be honest, I don't know what we're talking about. I left it in Jack's capable hands. I'll go over and have a look now. But
is there anything in the news, Dave? Is there anything in the news that's worth talking about right now?
Yeah, there's loads in the news. To be honest with you, I was hoping everyone would be away on holiday and we can just relax for a few weeks and stuff like that. But it's just been absolute chaos. So I'm straight back into the mire, straight back into the fire pit, and straight back into the debates. You really don't get to celebrate a European Cup for that long, do you?
Mate, there's no such... I don't know what it is, but I feel like Tottenham fans are more interested in the off-season than they are in the on-season. Like, the views in the on-season is like, I don't know, 500-600 people, whatever, watching a live. In the off-season, when nothing's going on, 1,000 people tune in just to hear us talk about hypotheticals for a couple of hours. Do
you know what it is as well, though? I think like... when you're losing games and stuff like that, and you're losing, people lose interest naturally, or, stuff like that, or maybe they don't agree with what's being said and they sort of tune out. I think most people are back on board now because we won a Europa trophy. So, Europa League trophy, so the excitement's there heading back into next season. All of a sudden, the possibilities, what can we win next season? Everyone's excited again. The juices are flowing, and it's fucking great to see. It's what the club needed. Because one thing, look, regardless whether we keep Ange Postecoglou or not, I think a couple of things to be grateful is he's got the trophy hoodoo off our back. He's got rid of the Spursy tag. And mostly, he's showing Tottenham Hotspur how much of a big club we can actually be when we get it right. And he's given the expectations back to the fan base again. So even if he doesn't stay here and whatever else, he's brought that to the fan base. And it's ironic considering a lot of the fan base actually hate him. So well done. Kudos, Ange. And we'll move.
Cheers, David. Look forward to seeing you at 6 o'clock. Sorry, Johnny, carry on, mate.
I was just going to say, Sean, do you remember I sent you that guy? Do we need to have a look up on him with that Arden Jashari? Do you remember I sent you that link?
Yeah, I do, but I haven't got it in front of me. Which we can look. Do you look him up now, or do you want to save him for the next one?
We can look him up now. Arden Jashari.
How do I spell it?
Ardon.
Yeah. Oh, I've got
Jashari.
it. Yeah, I've got it.
Jashari.
Okay, let's have a quick look. See.
I mean, he's out in Switzerland.
So this is 25 million. Plays for who's he play for?
Lucerne, isn't it? Is it Lucerne? Oh, no, he's in Bruges. Sorry, he's in Bruges. Sorry,
he's from Bruges. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get him up. Let me Arden Jashiri. I'm not sure if they'll have the stats on him because I'm not sure Belgium's.
I'll tell you one thing. His goals, his assists, and his play, and his ball control is.
Oh wow! Jesus Christ! Not much of a defender, but he's fucking brilliant at everything else at that level. Green bars galore, 99th percentile, 352 meters in the carry every game. That's fucking insane. That is insane. He's doing. Was it Michael Johnson was the 400-meter runner, wasn't he? He's running Michael Johnson levels of with the ball at his feet every game. Progressive carrying distance. Wowzers! Although he runs half the time he's running sideways or backwards.
Well, listen. Someone forwarded it to me. That guy out, and funny enough, out in Switzerland. He messaged me. He's in sport and what have you, and he said, I know you love a player. He said, check this guy out. And I looked into it and I just,
55 carries a 90. What the fuck is that? That's more than playing the ball.
He's not like he's playing in Al Nassr, is it?
He touches the ball 73 times a game, and 55 out of 70, he goes on a run with it. Selfish bastard. He's like the kid on the playground.
61% take-on success.
He is the guy. He's like the kid on the playground that there's like 50 players playing on the playground, and he gets the ball and refuses to pass. He goes on a mazy dribble every single time. I'll go and check him out on the Y Scout. Looks like a good player. Obviously, you need to know what look, Club Brugge are a great team, so
I mean, he's still already 25, 30 million, but this is when your data comes out that this is the sort of player that Spurs sign and everyone goes, who the fuck is that? Typical Spurs.
Or if Brighton sign, they'll go, yeah, that guy's going to be a class player in a couple of years.
I quite like that. Bebo, is it Bebo? Bebe, Brighton. Is his name?
Belieber quality. Yeah, Belieber's very good. Very, very good. Well, I'll take a look at him, mate. We'll talk about more about him on the next show, no doubt. Guys, Johnny, what's coming up on? You're obviously with Dave later on, but what's coming up on Talking Tottenham and Johnny H?
Well, I'll still be posting my stuff on Talking Tottenham 1882. There's always something on my stories, bit of banter, bit of laugh, bit of seriousness. The usual posts. It's growing very nicely, so thank you very much. But if you are on TikTok, hit me up on Talking Tottenham 1882. And obviously, the main thing for me right now is the Football Inc. channel that Sean and I have started, where we're talking all things football. And we love it if you disagree with us or you got information. It was a really good show yesterday. We had quite a few Man United fans on and other fans on interjecting. And that's exactly what we want, giving us a bit of info, telling us where we were going wrong. Or agreeing with us, whatever the case may be. So if you get a chance, hit that. The
link for both Football Inc. and for Irish Hotspur is pinned in the comments, guys. So there's still 680 people here. Any of you that haven't subscribed to either, can you just quickly, before you dial off, just jump up to the pinned comment and hit both of those links. Go over to Dave's, smash the subscribe, and we'll see you over there at 6. And get over to Football Inc. and we'll see you over there either later on today or tomorrow for more of the same. But thanks for everyone for stopping by. Appreciate the super chats. Appreciate the likes and subscribes and all that stuff. And we'll see you on the next one. Like, subscribe, and comment. Come on, you Spurs. There you go.
Come on, you Spurs. European champions.
European champions. Let's go.
You'll never sing that.